Hi, I'm Thomas Martinez Pilnik, and we are here in my downtown LA studio. Yeah, so this is the studio section of my loft. So I like to kind of station everything out so that I can kind of segment my mind and my work. So the first piece is the sewing station. This is where I'm playing with, my softer fabrics, my lighter fabrics, where I'm finishing pieces and fixing all my clothes, along with all my tools just out in the open. It helps kind of clear my mind. One of my shelving racks where I try and only keep finished work or work that I'm really trying to actively think about. So you have right now a lot of pieces that are going to end up in New York for spring break. So you get a little view or insight into the way my brain works and how I'm kind of collecting and gathering my trinkets. Lots of cigarettes scattered across, along with all the other symbols that I use. Pieces that need mending always kind of end up right here. And then unfinished pieces, I use my floor space to trim and sew and cut my tufted rugs. So this is where I draw and cut and make sure my hands are clean before I'm touching anything. 2 tufting stations. One is 6 feet by 8 feet. So this is my very large tufting station. It's where I can kind of map out big pieces onto a flat plane before I sew them all up and kind of come up with it. And then my smaller pieces end up on the 4x4. And I separate them because I only want to cut down and glue a frame once it's fully filled. So if I have a piece that I want to get down quick, I'll do it on the small frame so that it's filled up. And then I have my 2 ceramic stations. I do all my underglazing, all my building by hand here. And then I take my work to Clay, California, which is based in Chinatown. And that's where I fire all my work. It's kind of a little bit of chaos, but it's all organized and archived in my head.
So tell us a little bit about what you're working on.
I have a booth upcoming at Spring Break Art Show in New York. So I'm finishing off a couple of editions of ceramics. Right now I'm underglazing my little cigarette butts, and then in front of those I have a bunch of votives that you would find in a Catholic church. I love Spring Break. It is a curator and artist-led art fair. The joy of that fair is that we have total ownership and agency over what is in our booth, how we wanted to decorate and dress it, the kind of theme, vibe, atmosphere. And so you really kind of get a chance to experiment. I'm going to be doing a solo booth that I'm calling Keep Out, I Love You. And it's responding to a previous theme that they had about the division of public and private. And here I'm really thinking about what it is about me and about my memories that are public and what about me and my memories are private, and how we negotiate the interiors and exteriors of our kind of psyches and minds.
So tell me how these works tie into the theme of the show that you were describing.
So in thinking really at the crux of my memory, the icon of the cigarette and the cigarette itself play kind of a central role through my childhood, my adolescence, my adulthood, up to now, this kind of obsessive act of making and underglazing and glazing and spending hours and hours making these tiny little symbols. My grandma smoked, my grandpa smoked, my mom still smokes. I try not to smoke, and yet I still find myself smoking. Almost every story I have growing up is tinged with ash, kind of laden with the symbology or metaphor of cigarettes, along with the kind of touch, taste, smell, synaptic offerings that cigarettes really bring to the table. For instance, my vovó Lu, so my family's Brazilian, and my grandma from Sao Paulo would come to visit me in London every summer, and she would practice yoga every morning out on our balcony. Instead of taking kind of regular meditative breaths, she would light a cigarette during her practice, and every inhale was this big puff in, and every exhale would be this kind of billow of smoke out into the air. And she'd be in frog pose or downward dog, it didn't matter. She was always with a cigarette in her hand. And it's that kind of pervasiveness that I think I'm trying to capture. These are literal kind of death sticks. People in my family have died because of these, and yet we find so much comfort as a culture and a society from them. And personally, I find the instant release of a puff of a cigarette to be so satisfying. And so I found that clay in particular does a little bit of the work for me so that I'm not smoking all the time. Rolling these out and letting them get to leather hard and then stubbing them out replicates the feeling of rolling my own cigarette and smoking it. And so I can kind of assuage some of the addiction into the practice, kind of helps me escape. And so I'm leveraging the icon to do something that's better for me, but also to do something that helps me access my memories. When I'm focusing on the painting, I'm really thinking about Vovolu, I'm thinking about my mom, I'm thinking about my dad, I'm thinking about myself, I'm thinking about the way that we're all connected in a way through these little symbols.
What do you think about older people smoking cigarettes?
Having this habit for your whole life and then trying to stop it. I've bitten my nails since before I had memory, and I can't stop. My nails are all chewed up. And you say, oh, please quit. And they're like, I don't know how. And I used to not really understand that. And I think I'm coming to terms with the fact that, yes, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but I think it's deeper than that. It's this real source of comfort.
How did you find art? Why did you know you wanted to do this?
I was kind of thrust into art from an early age through my mom. My parents got divorced when I was 6, and we moved into this apartment in London where she would host private views of emerging artists coming out of the Royal Academy and Goldsmiths and other places. At 6 or 7 years old, or maybe a little bit older, I would be carrying around this kind of tray of wine to all the artists and collectors and whoever else. I didn't know who they were. I didn't care. I was 7. But it was something that made me feel really included and gave me agency at a time where I really craved that. And so I think I felt really welcomed by that community. I think that exposure really helped me understand that making art was not just kind of like craft or pure hobby, expression, but was like this career in this world that you could enter and be a part of and be welcomed for the kind of self-expression that might have been taboo elsewhere in society. For the last 4-5 years now, I've been taking myself more seriously in terms of like pursuing art as a career.
What's that been like?
It's been magic. It's been filled with just some of the most like beautiful and precious moments of my life. I get to show my work and talk to people about art and exist in this loft where I make all my work, and it feels really good. It feels really good.